Hey everyone, Steve here, and today I wanted to show you a new tool that I recently built. It's called Cielago. And essentially, the way this came about is I have to use Postman for work quite a bit. I deal with lots of different API references that have different credentials in each one and things like that. And one day Postman just wouldn't load and wouldn't load all day. And so I just made this instead. And I've always wanted something like this. And I couldn't really find a good alternative that already existed that had all the features I needed, which includes being able to import an OpenAPI spec, use OAuth 2.0 credentials, a lot of other fun stuff. So I was really excited to make this, and it's called Cielago. You can kind of Google that if you want to dig into the reference. But it's a pretty nice, Postman alternative that lives inside of your terminal. To install, you can do brew install Steve Dillon dev / tap.cielago. You can also do cargo install Cielago. There's some other install methods, including binary installs with an installer script on the GitHub repo, which will be linked in the description if you're interested. Once it runs, you can just make sure that it's running just by running Cielago help. And there we go. And the first thing you want to do is probably import a spec. You could also do a new spec if you wanted to build something from scratch, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to import one. I'm going to do Cielago import. And I'm going to import this one from my desktop. It's the Space Traders API. If you haven't checked out Space Traders, you can Google it, or Kaggy it, I should say. And it's a really nice, kind of fun, open public API that is great for training. So we went ahead and imported it, and you can see that it has written it to a config file. If I want to, I can go ahead and open up that config just by edit. And this is opening it in my config files. It's just one big JSON file that imports everything. It has all of the different information here, which is really nice. But let's go ahead and open it. Cielago open Space Traders API. And you can see here we have a really nice view that is going to be similar to LazyGit and other tools that you've probably used before in the terminal. And there's kind of three primary tabs. There is a kind of sidebar navigation, a request editor, and then the response. So really straightforward. Inside of the sidebar here, there's a lot of things you can do. For instance, if you want to, there's a command to actually change the label. So you label path if you wanted to see the paths instead of the basic, names that are given inside of the spec. I'm going to change that back. Label name. You can also collapse all these groups to make it a little bit easier to navigate. So I can do groups collapsed. And you can see here it's a little bit easier to navigate. And I can just hit space or enter to access any of those. And if I really wanted to, you can actually do full new requests as well. If I'm in this sidebar and I just do the letter N to do a new request, I could do post / testing. Well, actually, here, let's name it something. Let's do testing. And we do post / testing. We can change it to get or post. And there we go. And it kind of creates a new one. So pretty cool. And I can just delete that with D here. If we go into the actual pane here to look at the request, we have all these tabs in here to handle different things like query params, headers, body if applicable for like a post request, the docs, which is really nice to have if you're exploring an OpenAPI spec and you want to check something before you send it. And if we want to send the request, we could just hit enter. And there we go. We can see that the response populated down here. And we can scroll through this with J and K. Again, this whole TUI is kind of built with Vim key bindings, which is nice. You could do D and U to skip, which is nice. So page down, page up, really nice. And you can also do Z to maximize the pane. So if you wanted a full view, you could do that. And perhaps my favorite, if you use the letter E, you can actually open the response in your editor. So if you use a NeoVim or something like that, just makes it really nice so you can just grab some text and use it elsewhere. So really, really cool. Now, one of my favorite things about this app is how it handles the authentication, as it supports OAuth 2.0, which is pretty crucial for me. And so if we wanted to take a look and see how that works, we can go into an endpoint that requires authentication. So for the Space Traders one, trying to get the agent that I'm currently using, it doesn't have that authentication token, so it's not going to return anything. It's going to return a 401. And if I do Shift A, I can go ahead and go into the authentication configuration here. And there's three different types you can choose from. You could do a classic bearer token, or if you want to do an API key with a custom header and value there. And you can also, of course, do OAuth 2.0. And this is really nice because it automatically handles your token refreshing and everything else, just like Postman. And that's kind of one of the inspirations where I really wanted to have this. The other nice thing about this is that you don't have to do plain text variables. You can use the results of a subshell. So if, for instance, if I'm using something like a one password CLI, I can just call that here. So for this bearer token, I can do OP, or actually here, wait, $ open parentheses, OP read, paste in the reference here. And once I save that, it's going to use that one password. So if I go ahead and send this now, there we go. Now we got the actual authenticated result. And yeah, there's a lot more you can do here. Something that's really nice too is if you actually hit save here, it's actually going to save the selected endpoint and the pane that you're currently on. So if we open up this again, you can see we're still in the exact place that we want it to be. You can of course add any kind of param. So if, for instance, this list agents here, I could click space. I can do insert to change the values here, and which is really nice. If I wanted to, I could go into headers, add custom headers. Body is really nice too, so let's check that out actually. I believe if we have like a purchase ship or something here, you can see that it has a body. We can edit this in the pane here, or I can click E to open it in my editor, which is really nice. That's how I want to edit things, is in Vim. I don't want to fool around with stuff there. I could also of course look at the docs here and look at the types. um, there's also the ability to do variables. So for instance, you have a header. Let's say you needed something like a idempotency key or something like that, and this needs to be something random every single time. I can just do double curly braces UID, and that's going to automatically put in a random UID for every request. That's something else that I really wanted out of this. And of course, you can declare your own custom variables that are be used anywhere. And again, all of these things that we're configuring here are all saved in those config files. And so it's really easy to just, save those, back them up, re-import them later. The fact that you can use your shell references instead of plain text means that they're safe to use. So you can keep them pretty secure. So yeah, that's Cielago. I hope it's interesting to you or helpful, or you find it helpful. I know I've really enjoyed it the past few days. I've been using it, and it's really powerful and can do a whole lot of other things I haven't covered here. So be sure to check out the GitHub repo below, install it, give it a shot, send me some feedback, and I'd be happy to listen to it. So thanks.